Okay, so this is the Cathedral, the Bazaar, and the Coffee House. Cathedral and the Bazaar was a talk by Eric Raymond, in which he introduced the metaphor for the Cathedral and the Bazaar, and I'm today going to introduce the Coffee House. So who am I? I am Claude Warren. I'm a member of the Apache Foundation. I contributed to various Apache projects. I call myself an effectuator because I just think that's a much better term. I am not the one in Wikipedia. That would be my father. And if you look him up, you will find a link to my mother as well. And she was an historian. And that's a good place to start because I want to talk about 1688. Come on, change the slide already. There we go. All right, in 1688, I'm going to fall behind now. In 1688, Edward Lloyd founded a coffee house on Tower Street in London. And in this coffee house, people that were in the shipping industry would show up and talk about shipping and all of the problems that you have in shipping, which was the high-tech industry of the day. And as you can see, the problems are going to be things like you get a ship lost at sea, you have pirates, it's the golden age of piracy after all, your stock market could crash, you could lose stuff overboard. So what they did was the patrons of the coffee house came up with a strategy to reduce risk. And that strategy involved investing in multiple ships and multiple cargo and then sharing in the profit or the loss. So how does this relate to tech? Well, if we look at the history of tech, or the current? No, anyway. 99% of code bases have open source software in it, which means that your code base probably has open source software. 82% contain outdated or abandoned components, which means you have to worry about that. And that XKCD comic is so on point that Project in Nebraska and maintained by a random person in Nebraska have become idioms, meaning OS supported by a single person. Okay, so we'll continue now. 82% contained outdated or abandoned software components. 73% had the software license issue, which means that if they have an issue, you have an issue. So you should be worried. Are you overwhelmed yet? You have to find upstream dependencies, analyze issues, analyze risks, analyze mitigation, discover the unknown unknowns, and discover the things you know that ain't so. So what does that have to do with the Cathedral and the Bazaar? Well, the Cathedral and the Bazaar, Eric Raymond posted that these are metaphors. So a top-down development strategy and a bottom-up development strategy. So you have these two different strategies, and they produce two different types of software. What I want to talk about is the coffee house. I want to add the coffee house as a new metaphor. And this is a metaphor for coming together to figure out how we're going to solve these problems. And how are we going to maintain that across multiple companies and multiple organizations. So, did my slide disappear? No, okay. Well, hopefully another one's coming up. It died. All right. I don't have the rest of my slides. Where'd they go? Okay, yeah. All right. Form an OSPO. This is one of the things you're going to do. You're going to form an OSPO. That's an open source program office. That program office is going to support the projects that your company is dependent upon. So your company is dependent on open source projects. Make sure you're supporting them. And you do that by paying money to people who are developing in those open source projects, or you hire somebody to go work on those open source projects, or you provide resources for those open source projects so that they will be there when you need them. Right? Then what you want to do now is you get a bunch of OSPOs and you get other interested parties together, you're going to form a community. And that community is going to come together and you're going to say, what are the metrics that we need to use to establish which of the projects we can depend upon? And so in the end, the coffee house is this idea of the community of people who are interested in supporting open source coming together and finding ways to do that. So that's what I'm proposing as the coffee house in the Cathedral, the Bazaar, and the coffee house. So in the end, the Cathedral and the Bazaar are really good metaphors for ways of doing software development. And what I really want to do is I want to add to that and make the coffee house as the new metaphor to support these development processes. That's it.